Yo, what's up? You want to play some Magic?
Hey, I don't know, man. I'm not really feeling it right now. The format's kind of blah. Not
Oh,
really
come on,
feeling
there
my
are
commanders.
so many cool spoilers from Wilds of Eldraine and like all the new
Yeah.
sets coming out. Like, let's come on, man. Let's go meet at the shop.
I don't know. I think seeing Doctor Who printed after Lord of the Rings is giving me some existential nightmares that I was not ready for. And honestly, I don't really want to lose to Blue Farm Winode again. I think I'm gonna sit out this one if you don't
Okay,
mind.
I got you. Well, while you're taking some time off, check out this episode of Man on the Rocks that's airing this week. They were talking about something pretty similar.
Oh, Man on the Rocks. That sounds like that bar down the road. Yeah, I don't know if I'll go to the shop. I'm totally down. You want to go get a drink?
Yeah, it's connected about something other than cards.
Absolutely. Burnout is something that everyone's gonna experience at one point or another. Especially in CDH, where I think a lot of us are kind of like, you have CDH and you have TDH, and we can argue the this and that's of them, but at the end of the day, like, both camps are gonna experience burnout to some degree. And in different ways, I think. I think if you're just playing with like a local, like you're just a play group, and you're not really like competing or doing anything, you just want to play like CDH just with the friends. Like, you're gonna experience a different kind of burnout from like the burnout that I have personally experienced, or other people experience when you go to like tournaments frequently.
What kind of burnout is that? Where it's like, I know that you haven't necessarily like done super well in the past couple that you played, so it's like, is burnout just because you keep like getting hammered and just like falling down the Swiss rungs, or
I think for me, a lot of it was more or less confronting that I could not crack the code in my own super unique way, and being really bummed out about that. I think is like a large part of that. Just like really take myself down like to like the realist level is like, yeah, no, like red black discard was not going to beat blue farm in a lot of circumstances. It doesn't compete with any of the fast decks. Like, it just doesn't do enough. And any of the other decks that I really tried, either I just didn't like it, just didn't fit me, or it was just not it. So it was a lot of like me running my head against a wall, trying to like, no, I got this, I can do this, and then the realization of like I never had it to begin with, and I've heard that story a lot of times. I remember a particular article from Joking 101 I read a couple months ago, actually. He talked about the story about how he brought his like super sweet Holland brew to like his first like big CDH event, and he did not do super duper well, and it kind of rocked his world because he had to face the facts of like, okay, this is what it like takes to succeed in this format, whatever you mean by that. Either like your deck performs well, or like it performs like enough that like it keeps you going. But like, and the way I operate, especially when it comes to competition, is I want to do well enough. I don't need to win every event. It'd be nice to win every event, but I don't need to win every event. I just need to be consistently like, okay, I can go to an event, I can make it out of Swiss, I can make it to top cut, and then if I scrub out top cut, that's fine. But I usually just try and aim for top cut and then kind of take it from there.
yeah, I can get that. I don't know. I'm driven to win, baby. I'm gonna play whatever's the best.
Yeah, and like through everything, I've never been like, I have to play the absolute best. It's like, no, I need to know what the absolute best is, and I need to like find what beats the absolute best. I need to be one step ahead.
I think, yeah, and I think that's definitely a big piece when you're trying to parse through, is like finding that balance between what makes the game enjoyable to you, it is still viable in a competitive situation.
Yeah,
because if you're not playing something that you enjoy, then
what's the point?
Sometimes it's just over you. Even if you're like, oh, I'm winning a lot and like generating results or whatever, winning prizing, it just puts you in the situation where you're not being fulfilled by what is at its root a game, and so you're just like, it's pastime. Nobody's paying their rent off this. Like, we're playing to have fun, playing to compete at a really high level against other people who also know this game really, really well. And so in that regard, it's like similar to a sport, but it also, like, the way it's so customizable, and like you can approach it with your own unique takes, unlike soccer or something where it's like, I'm gonna sit down on the court, I'm gonna play soccer, using my hands. It's like,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can't do that. It's like you can't change the rules like the way Magic lets you change the rules of each game by selecting different cards from the pool, right?
Mhm.
So part of that is like make it fun for you by selecting cards that you want to play that you think are neat, but you still have to, like you said, from the article, you still have to take certain steps that are gonna be good enough and hold up enough that you're able to win some games and generate results. Because otherwise, it's got to be a healthy balance of both. Otherwise, you're not going to win games, and you're going to feel sad about that, disappointed.
Absolutely.
But if you're playing like you're only playing blue farm, then
Mm,
eventually, like
you
if
have, you
blue
have
farm's
bigger
not your
problems.
thing, not to bash on blue farm, but if like for me, if blue farm's not my thing, if I'm playing blue farm every single game because I just want to like win or whatever, I'm not gonna enjoy that. It's gonna become a chore, and what's the point if you feel like you have to do XYZ?
Yeah, yeah, and I think Commander and CDH in particular allows for such a great degree of freedom that you don't really see in like other like card games when you get to the like competitive and like tournament level. Like you have like the established threats, you have like the anti-meta picks, and then you have like kind of whatever else filling out the rest of like the scene essentially. Whereas like CDH, like you have like the meta to some degree, but like the meta is mostly like your win conditions. Like you have to have a plan for Thorkel, for Breach, for Ad Nauseam. You have to be able to grind through stacks. You have to be able to pivot and turn into a win when you're given your opportunity. But those things are so broad and so flexible in how they're presented in the format and how you can make use of them in your deck, that you do have this ginormous breadth of freedom that it doesn't exist in any other card game. And to me, at the end of the day, like that's why I play CDH. That's why I think CDH is super duper interesting, is because you do have that extreme level of expression that CDH or that Commander was born from the ground up to do. You know, everyone wanted to play with these super cool jank duds that were just lying around in bulk between rounds. You know, and that was the way people express themselves. You know, color identity. This commander means a lot to me because XYZ. And I definitely absolutely think that's true to some degree in CDH. Are there best decks? Like, yeah, obviously, like Winota, Blue Farm, like though the usuals as they were. Like, yeah, they're good. They're really good. But you have so many more options, and that's why I ultimately keep coming back to it. And what really made the Burnout really tough is because I like this game. I love Magic. I love Commander. I love CDH. I love all these things. But damn, if it doesn't hurt to see everyone else do so well, I'm like, why doesn't my jank strategy work?
Yeah, I totally get that. I think your point about like the meta being win cons is also super important because if looking at it like that, like the routes the different decks take to get there, that the larger shells around whatever their win cons are, that's like that can serve as such a way to like introduce new styles and new cards and new strategies rather than just the typical like I'm in black and also blue, therefore ad nauseum and Thoracle is my thing. Like sometimes that is what your deck does and that's what you want to play and that's great. Other
Sometimes what
times,
the individual game does.
yeah, that's a lot of times though, like maybe you're on like Thoracle's my win condition, and I have black for consult or whatever, but we also splash another color, and then we can like now I can add a different way to get to that route. That's not ad nauseum. Like maybe I'm drawing cards or tutoring really frequently, or maybe I'm adding something else, right? So you have all these other things, and I think that the thing that's really tough is sometimes we as players feel pressured and just pigeonhole ourselves into playing like XYZ deck or strategy or card because it's like the most technically optimal, and any other reason feels like we're making an excuse, right? So if you start out with like, oh yeah, I don't want to play ad nauseum, and I want to add white, so I can do that, and then I guess there are no real commanders in Esper that appeal to me, so let's add a commander that has an extra color. So now I'm in 4 colors, and that happens to be blue farm colors, but I don't want to play blue farm, so now I'll play like Brea or something. I guess I guess intuition helps me find my Thoracle pieces better, and it's like, okay, well, and I'm in red, so I can be in breach. Like, you just kind of end up pushing all of these things in there, and finally you reach a point where you're like, oh, well, this is just whatever X deck is, except my commander's different, or I'm playing some really bad cards on the main board that I can cut to optimize because they don't have a good enough reason. So why am I not just doing whatever the best thing is?
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, it can be as simple as, I want to do this, and there's some, when you're playing competitively, it's not a great reason, but there's some wiggle room. It's like, I want to play this pet card, and as long as it doesn't suck butt, like that's a viable reason. I'm in mono blue, like already not great color options, but I want to play Verity Circles. I think it's really cool. It's like, obviously this card is not amazing, but it's not terrible either. So like,
draws cards.
It draws cards. You have some flex slots, you can slot it in there. If you have the resources, and then it gets harder when you add colors because you run into the whole like, well, now I'm in like Intuition Breach, and now I'm in non-historical stuff, so I should also be on this, be on these rituals to make that better, and all of those types of things. And like I said, you just end up spinning yourself down into the ground and saying, why am I not just doing that? And I think that's where we as players, a lot of times, that's where we face the burnout, as far as like from a deck building perspective at least. So, like, outside of the actual like game and tournament results, and that's where it's really important to go back and maybe even just take a break, but just like go back to your list and say, all right, what is it that I actually want to do? Is there something that I want to? Because a lot of times I'll start by brewing a list, like how am I trying to win? What am I trying to accomplish with this deck? Sometimes it's okay to start with, what do I not want to do? It's like, I do not want to do Thoracle. Okay, well, if I don't want to do Thoracle, but I also want to be in black and blue, like, now let's find something that can also be considered competitive and can compete at a high level. So like, even if it's not maybe technically as efficient, let's find something that can still get us there, right? It'll still get us there, and it'll still play close to like optimal strategies and like strong cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you touched on the color thing a lot, and like as you like gradually add more and more colors to your deck, you start losing those slots, those freedom slots, those flex slots, the pet card slots, because okay, I'm adding black now. Okay, that means I need to play all the tutors. Do I have room for an animation package? Do I need to be on a reanimation package? Like all like the good cards, the expected cards, you start piling all of those up, and eventually you end up with Blue Farm. I'll just use it as an example because like Blue Farm is the combination of the best cards in those four colors, no questions asked. Like it is the epitome of, we are playing the quote unquote best cards in the entire format, using the best win conditions in the format in Thoracle Breach ad nauseam. And we're just going to get there on sheer card quality alone. And I think there's merit to that. Like, I think Magic will always have their pile. Like, there will always be
4 or 5 color soup. Yeah,
there will always be soup. There will always be piles where someone wants to play. Jund was always called the 50% deck. Didn't really have any good matchups, but didn't have any bad matchups. And I very much view Blue Farm in like a similar way. Those decks are always going to exist, but I also think you can just do so much more, and I see that. So running up against that wall is definitely hard. You have to have some sort of strategy to it. Because I remember when we first started really going out to tournaments this past summer, it was the Calmax event that I brought, and I was doing not so well. And we had talked about like, okay, well, what do you want to do? And I said, I don't want to play the meta. Was essentially what I was trying to say. Is I don't want to play the best thing in the room. I don't want to. I just get bored with the usual best stuff. Essentially, is what it comes down to. Yeah, I can win with Thoracle Consult, but oh my, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die of boredom. I'm just gonna not want to play that deck, and I don't want to be there. So you have to pivot around. That's what I did. I tried a bunch of different decks, revisited things, new cards came out, tried new stuff, and I've wound up in my own quote unquote 4-color soup deck, which is just, I want to win through Kiki Jiki, baby. Kiki Jiki's great. The Cheeksters is fantastic. I love him as a win con. He's so much fun, and he does a lot of cool things. A lot of onboard tricks, a lot of lines, a lot of weird tutor chains that I love. I love these crazy little onboard and tutor interactions, and Kiki Jiki decks really involve that. So, and it's taken a while to really get to that point because I've always loved these kind of decks. These like silver bullet-y, creature-y, mid-rangey decks with like these flashy combo finishes where I make infinite dudes.
Yep. Yeah. And see, like, and you ended up with like four color soup pile, whatever you want to call it, like you mentioned, but like there's still some flair. Like you are not playing like the most optimal version of this deck by a long shot. You're not playing Blood Pot or Meta Pot or whatever. But like you're taking that and you're spinning it into a more creative, personalized version that still can compete, but it's like it fits more who you are, and it gets harder, like we were saying, with more colors, but it's still possible to do. You can find other options, you can find alternate routes, and at that point it's just a matter of like, okay, well, if I'm playing this card and it's still good but it's suboptimal, like sometimes it's just a matter of like changing a couple of other cards around in your shell so that they line up better with this card, and then now this other card that was really good classically is like a little out of place, so maybe we like cut that and we tweak that into something else, and it's just constant
from there you just
evolution.
spiral.
Yeah, it's just constant evolution, right? So,
well, and that's where a lot of like our work on your Kenrith deck comes in, because like from jump you were on very much different stuff just because Kitten was new, and we were like, well, how do we build the best Kitten deck? And I took a look at it and I'm like, we can work on this, we can do some solid work here. And it's become its very own thing, far as I'm aware. No other deck really does what your Kenrith deck does.
It's pretty unique. Yeah, I do. There's a lot of that. Like, well, I'm thinking about playing this card because it seems really good. Play a couple iterations, test games, tournaments, blah blah blah. That's really cool. Now this card that I've been on forever feels a little out of place. Let's cut that. Let's try something new. So that's, like I said, constant evolution, and that's one of the things that keeps me engaged with the deck, keeps me engaged with the game, and helps me prevent burnout. Is that constant like brewing and like looking at new stuff that's out of the ordinary. I've been on Videlian Click, I'm on Stunt Double now, I've been on Cloud Shift for aeons now, but like that card's great and nobody else in the world basically plays it unless you've like been shown the power, like
unless you witnessed it firsthand.
Yeah, Cloud Shift is a fantastic card.
I lose so many games to Cloud Shift, it's ridiculous.
No one sees it coming. It's so good.
I can play Cloud Shift in Baby Pod.
Ooh. Yeah, it's just
okay.
Like,
hold on, we're brewing again. Okay,
that's a different episode.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's so that's one of the things that keeps me engaged, is like that constant evolution. And as much as WotC's been getting flamed recently for their money grabbing with all of like these set prints and stuff, it is, at least from my perspective, it is actually, when you're printing new sets, printing all of these, like flooding the market with all these new cards, it is to some extent like helping prevent player burnout, because you're not seeing the same archetypes, the same matchups, plus or minus, like, and across all formats, plus or minus like one or two different cards in each shell, like being run again and again and again and again. And like, yes, sometimes it's fun to have those periods where it's like, yes, we all just get to like play our decks into one another for a long period of time. But for me, at least, like 3 months of like running the same stuff every single time, and I start to get bored. And so like having these new sets released constantly, while it is a bummer that like players have to shell out cash to pick up new cards and stuff, and it is, at the end of the day, just like profit grabbings for Wizards, it is also really helpful for players because it creates new stuff for them to look at and evaluate. It's just like, as long as the set itself isn't a dud, there are all these really powerful cards that come out. You can check out their different interactions, how it might function in like the overall strategy of like CEDH and like different sub metas and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. And the power level of our side of the format is such that like we're really only going to get the busted cards, and the busted cards don't come around very often, because I think a lot of people can very accurately guess the busted cards when we see them coming. Like Bowmasters, for example. Everyone saw that card a mile away, knew it was going to be a menace. and it is a menace. Like, it's good. It's great. You know, the Modern Horizons 2 cards, pretty obvious that like Urza Saga and Ragavan are really, really good cards. Very, very flexible, very, very powerful cards. So like, and we're gonna see them come in, and I think that absolutely helps with like not necessarily rotation, but like it gives options and opportunities for those powerful cards and maybe other cards that they enable to start making their way into deck lists, and we start getting iteration. We start getting, okay, we've iterated enough, it's its own thing, or okay, you know, Blue Farm's now starting to incorporate this thing, you know, what blah, 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 blah. You start iterating and going on there. And I think for a lot of it, I was really missing that, like, I need to like brew more, not necessarily more, but like I just started getting bored with a lot of lists I was playing. Like I felt like I had arrived at conclusions that I either felt were good enough or I was hitting the limitations of my colors, like Rakdos, for example. I feel like I have pushed my Rakdos experience to the extreme as I were almost to the point of regression at a certain point, because you start cutting really good cards to make up for the bad cards, and it spirals out of control until you realize you're still playing Rakdos at the end of the day. There's only so much that kind of combination can do. So, you know, other colors start fixing those issues. And it allows for you add another fifth of the card pool to your arsenal, and another fifth, and you have all these options. And I think that's what a lot of it I was missing, as I was really pigeonholing myself. For one reason or another, I don't know. I'm stupid when it comes to a lot of these things and a lot of these opinions. I think I remember like early on, I was like, yeah, I don't want to play Adnaz because I want to bow to the man, like something stupid like that. I still don't, but like I found my path, you know. It takes some time, you know. It took some stepping away from the game for a little bit. Just life stuff, you know, has caused me to just take a little bit of a break from the game. And I've fallen in love with CEDH basically all over again. You know, I have decks that I have a deck that I'm really, really enjoying and gives me a lot of freedom for what I want to be able to do. That isn't the establishment, that wins in its own capacity, in its own ways, and it's varied, and it does all the things that my brainworms really like. That's the big thing, is making sure the brainworms are happy.
Yeah, and I think that bit about stepping away is really important, because sometimes I've been on both sides of this. Sometimes I'll just get into this rut and be like, I just need to take a break, and I'll just basically all but stop playing Magic for like a month or two at a time. Be like, all right, gotta take a breather. I'm not in a Magic mood. I'm just not enjoying the game right now. Get a step back. Don't really feel like playing. And then other times I'm on the flip side of that, where it's like I'm in a rut and I'm stuck, and so I just keep playing like constantly. I'm just pushing myself, and I'm not enjoying it. I'm not having fun, but like I just feel like by just continually running games, you'll eventually push through. And having played both sides of that, I think that stepping away is definitely the better option. So if you're in a rut and you're feeling stuck, sometimes it's okay to just take a breather, whether that breather's a week, 2 weeks, 2 months, 3 months, a year, yeah. Whatever you need so that when you come back, you're like, man, I really like this game. I'm enjoying this. I want to keep playing. Like, actually. Not that I feel like I have to keep playing, but I actually want to. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really important. It can also lead to some really, really great player improvements. For me, I know that one of my biggest level up moments was at the end of last year, I think it was. I was just over it. I'd had it. I wanted to take some time off. I needed some space. So I stopped playing Magic for like probably about 2 months, month and a half, 2 months. Just space, just like really just didn't play Magic. Like maybe talk about it with some friends here and there. But I was doing other stuff, and that was great. And then I came back to the game, and it was kind of like a reset moment. I was approaching it with like just a fresh perspective, not all of these like ironed in takes that I had prior to my little hiatus. And I come back and I just have like these great epiphany after epiphany after epiphany, and like I'm able to make all these adjustments to my deck, and like starting to just seeing that like this is not what I want to be doing. I need to be doing this, and like looking at new card selections, and it was a really great moment. It was like after that is like actually when I cut Thoracle from my list. It was like I took that break and I came back and I was like, man, I never win with Thoracle anyways. I'm literally never want to see console in my hand. So at the very least, I'm going to start by cutting console. Well, I've cut console. I'm never Thoracling anyways still. I guess I might as well just cut Thoracle. Like, the only thing it's doing is being a payoff card for Dualcaster Saw in hand. Like, and I don't need that. Like, I'm gonna cut Thoracle. And then Tainted Pact is still really good. I love casting that card. It feels really great.
Fantastic card.
Yeah, and then like the deck just goes on from there. I keep changing things, and I keep looking at things, and it's really enjoyable. And so that was like that break was really great for my mental. Just reset me, got me back to the place of I really like this game. There are things that I can do about this game that aren't just basic and already done. I don't have to follow other people's deck building strategies. I can still do well by looking at it my own way. And that really helped me since that point, which was at the beginning of this year. I really haven't experienced burnout. So
yeah, and that was it was interesting for me because I wasn't expecting to run into burnout as fast as I was, because prior to me doing CDH, like I started playing CDH like couple 3 months after returning to Magic, after like a 4.5 year break from the game. I moved to where I am now, and it just wasn't in the cards for the longest time. It just was not in the cards for me to be able to play Magic. And then returning to the game and just fall in love with the game all over again. And okay, the competitive scene is competitive commander. Yeah, okay, that seems pretty interesting. And then like falling into the rabbit hole that is just the world of CDH. I wasn't expecting to run into burnout so soon. And it was just it took me by surprise, and didn't really recognize the burnout until basically like last week or the week before. It was like, oh, I was absolutely in the rut. I was in the worst of it. And I've taken some time, just like take a break, step away. I do a million other things, so it's pretty easy for me to shift my focus to other things and just kind of keep Magic as a back burner thing. But yeah, no, absolutely returning back to these things, it is very much like seeing everything with a fresh set of eyes. I'm looking at lists and play patterns and things like this. I'm like, okay, I'm things seem so much clearer now, whereas before they were murky and unclear.
Yeah, no, I definitely get that,
and that's huge. And it happens to everyone. Happens to the best of us, and that's all right.
Yeah,
the game will always still be here. It'll still be good.
Exactly. Yeah. Theory. I'll take an anecdote from one of our friends that we were talking to. I was talking to them last week, 2 weeks ago, something like that. We were like talking about our podcast and brainstorming ideas and stuff. And that was like they were actually the one who brought up the idea for this topic, because our friend David was talking about. We'll talk about burnout and how sometimes people just don't really feel like playing Magic anymore, or you run into other barriers that make you want to stop playing for a little bit. So we were talking about how he just felt like he was struggling for so long. He couldn't do anything that to win. Like he would do everything right, he just couldn't get there. And then I don't know if he said he took a break or not, but can't really recall. But we were talking about it, and he said eventually he just hit this level up moment after like a perspective shift, and since that time he's started to do like really well in tournaments.
Very well.
He started just like popping off, hitting top 16 cuts at really large tournaments. Keeps like making it to final pods at our local events, making it to top 4 cuts, like just doing really great all over the place. And so he's doing way better now that he's like taken that time to reset. So,
and that's big. And I think again, anecdotally, like for our area and for our scene, like a lot of us are really trying to push each other in the best of ways. Like we all want each other to do well. We're always trying to figure out ways that we can improve our game, be it politically, be it, like in the actual mechanics of it, be it in the deck building, the theory, all of that stuff. We're all trying to push each other to do better. And I think for me, I was trying to push myself more than I think I needed to. It's a lot of like just me being my own weird self about a lot of about how I approach a lot of things, and not just taking that step back and being like, okay, maybe I am wrong,
It's a difficult balancing act to have to try and...
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. Because on one hand, I want to... I hesitate to use the word trailblazing because I despise that word with a passion. But, like, I want to put my mark on something, whatever. But I also understand that putting my mark on something means I need to lean on a lot of the established, like, conventions that are in our format. And I think my hang-up was on... Well, if I lean on anything, I may as well just lean on entirely. If I'm at that point, then why bother entirely? Just full send that. But I think that's a really stupid perspective from me, because you can't innovate. Essentially, you can't improve what already exists if you don't take what has come before into consideration. So, and that's where the Tim Natana list started. It's like, okay, well, I like Blood Pod, I like these colors. What do I not like about this list? What do I not like about these colors? How can I fix that? I didn't like that it was playing every Stax creature under the sun. Cut them all. We're just playing the best of the best. Well, Stax isn't great right now. Okay, let's go a little bit faster. Let's not play any of like the hard Stax effects. Let's play just the good asymmetrical pieces. So just Drannith and Oppo basically, and we'll juice. We'll play commanders that are better for juicing, that offer very unique access, very unique win conditions, and we'll go from there. And that combined with being handed a list from our buddy Zach, I found something that I'm like, okay, I can actually like sink my teeth into this, and there's gumption behind it. There's energy behind it. There's like, okay, this list can do well. Let's run with it. Let's do it. And it's been fantastic. There hasn't been a day that's gone by that I haven't like looked through the list and like considered stuff or made changes.
Yeah, it's a very interesting list, that's for sure. Very dynamic.
This list is so sick. I just made changes to the mana base the other day because I realized I was a dingus and I wasn't on any of the 2-mana producing lands. Like I wasn't on Ancient Tomb and I wasn't on Phyrexian Tower, even though I'm a Hulk list. So I was like, why am I not on these cards? These cards are sweet and they do everything.
yeah, just all of the cool things to consider.
Yeah, and it opens the door for crop rotation. Because
favorite card.
Crop rotation into Phyrexian Tower for the Hulk is a very real thing, but also, like, I will eventually put a Gaia's Cradle into this deck, or if I'm going to proxy events, it will be in the list. So crop rotation for Gaia's Cradle is just good. I'm playing green, gonna have a lot of dudes out anyway, so...
I do love countering someone else's crop rotation. That is a fantastic feeling.
Don't do that! Please don't do that! Ignore the Hulk on the battlefield or the pattern of rebirth that's coming down. Please, this crop rotation is fine.
Yeah,
but go for it.
No, I was just gonna say it's a very good feeling to counterspell or op a crop rotation.
Nothing bad can ever come from letting the crop rotation resolve, guys. Nothing bad at all.
Ever get a cradle or a combo land or anything? Nothing like that would ever
occur. No. Yeah, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been good. I'm amped again to try and do well. We have another major at our shop coming up, and I'm really hoping that I can get this deck in kind of fighting shape. And it's a feeling I haven't had since like the first major that we had at the shop. Where I'm like, oh, I can test my stupid brew against whatever and see if I do well, and then bubble into the top 16. Yeah, it's I got it back. I got the mojo back. I was just missing a deck basically, and I was missing a playstyle that I could work with and B improve upon and like iterate on and like actually truly make my own. It was missing everything, honestly. And with CDH, like your odds are so stacked because your average win percentage is 25%. Like that's a hard number. Like most other card games, you're dealing with a 50% win percentage at bare minimum, and you're trying to really eke out those percentage points. Whereas we're we're in a game where your mouth is one of the best things you could be running, essentially.
Yeah.
And it allows for a lot of variance, a lot of window making, a lot of opportunity that you otherwise wouldn't make if you're just playing against someone, because you're both going to make the best move possible, or what you think is the best move possible, and there's no wiggle room there. And I think that's I just think that's all pretty interesting, and I think a lot of, again, I'm just excited to play Magic again is what it comes down to. I'm excited to, just try and do well.
Yeah, you found your way through your burnout, and now you're ready to come back. And I think that's like basically what it all boils down to, right? It's like what is the path that you as an individual have to take to find your way back to the desire to play the game.
And that answer is going to be different for everybody. And for me, it was just taking a step back from the game, not really like worrying about it too much. Just focusing on other stuff. Like I play other games, I got other hobbies and interests. I'll be able to. And I knew it was going to be back event sooner rather than later. I wasn't going to disappear forever. I can't leave Mana on the Rocks. Come on, it definitely sucks, Burnout. Especially when you're going through it, and if anyone else is going through it, like it's fine to be burned out. Like, take your time. Whatever you're burned out from will be there.
Yeah, it's okay to tell your friends, I'm just not feeling it today. I don't really want to meet you up at the shop. I don't really want to like go to somebody's house and jam games or play games on spell table, webcam, whatever. Like I just need some time away from the game. Like that's okay.
Yeah. And for whatever reason, I think CDH can involve a lot of like very unique salt in the card game world. The salt in CDH is very different from the salt in any other game, but I guess you can say that at literally any game. At the end of the day, salt is still salt. Anyway, I'm just kind of rambling at this point.
Yeah, I know. I was just saying it'll be a short episode, I guess, but in the spirit of avoiding our own burnout for this podcast, I think we'll just cut early today because got it wrapped up all nice and neat. Basically, there's no more information to convey.
Yeah, I could ramble on and on about like random whatevers and not make any sense, but I think only I'll enjoy that. So we'll probably cut it a little short. At the end of the day, like I still love this game. I still think this is one of the best games in the world, and I think CDH is incredibly unique, and it keeps me coming back for more. What more could you want? But yeah, so in the spirit of not burning out, we're gonna make this a little bit shorter than our usual episode, but it's all right. We'll come back better than ever next week on Mana on the Rocks. We'll catch you next time.